Legally Speaking with Woods and Bates. We're going to talk today a little bit about the Secure Act.
Yep, setting every community up for retirement enhancement. So a new law was passed, commonly known as the Secure Act, that protects individuals that are living later or longer in life and are working longer in life. So why don't you explain some of the changes the Secure Act made?
I think it made a lot of changes, and I think, like you said, the purpose is to encourage people to save for retirement. But I think there's some what could be negative effects from an estate planning perspective with some of the changes. So what it does mainly is it gives some benefits to people as to when they have to take required minimum distributions. So the age for that has been extended to later in life, so you don't have to take the required minimum distributions as early, which is good for those people. But it also changes the rules a little bit about retirement accounts and what happens when people inherit those. So in the past, if you inherited a retirement account like an IRA or something like that, and you were a beneficiary of that account, you would typically have the option to roll that account over into your own name, and it would be as if you saved the money, so it would be your own account. And they made some changes now that if you're the beneficiary, you have to take that money out within 10 years with certain exceptions, which are really limited. Be the spouse, basically, is the only exception that I've found.
Yeah, another exception is if the beneficiary is less than 10 years younger than the decedent, then obviously they don't have to take out that distribution throughout that 10 years. They're able to stretch that over the course of their life as well. And that required minimum distribution age previously was 70 and a half. So if you turned 70 and a half in the calendar year of 2019, you're still required to take those minimum distributions in 2020 and every year thereafter. If you did not turn 70 and a half in 2019, the law now states 72 is the age where you take your required minimum distribution. So it extends it out about a year and a half.
And that 10-year exception, I guess, in my mind, isn't of a lot of benefit to most people, because most people are looking to leave assets to spouse, if not spouse, probably children. Not a lot of people have children that are only 10 years younger than them. That's going to be a tough one. The other couple benefits, I guess, there's some charitable potential benefits with this that weren't available before. There's some ability now to take some funds out to cover things like adoption expenses and things like that, which I don't think were available before.
Yeah, I think now the law says that you can take up to $5,000 out of a retirement account penalty free if you have a child or adopt a child within that calendar year. Previously, if you would have taken any distribution or a early withdrawal from your retirement account, you would have had to pay a 10% penalty as well as normal income tax on that distribution. So now there's an exception in place. If you have a child or adopt a child, you can withdraw up to $5,000, and that's per person. So if there's mommy and dad, they have a child together, mom could take $5,000 out of her IRA and dad could take $5,000 out of his IRA. Another thing that the Secure Act does is it provides an individual to contribute to their IRA beyond 70 and a half. So previously, when you reach the age of 70 and a half, you could no longer contribute to your IRA. Now the law says as long as you are working and earning wages, you can continue to contribute to that IRA as long as you continue to work.
And I think it also gives those people some ability to give some charitable gifts up to a pretty substantial amount, about $100,000, which would be essentially tax-free, because you're putting money in there before tax, and then you're paying it out, before you get taxed on it, as you would if it came out. But I think that changes certainly the advice that I've been giving over the last several years about how we're going to plan for maybe not even retirement, but death and succession of assets. Because the advice that I typically give is, if you've got a retirement account, let's list your beneficiary specifically on that and make sure that they have at least the option to roll it over into their own name. They don't have to exercise that if they don't want to, but it gives them the option, as opposed to just liquidating it, paying the tax, and moving along with whatever cash is left over. And that may not be the best option anymore.
Right. So now somebody passes away and leaves a beneficiary, a non-spouse, somebody that's more than 10 years younger than them. That individual that inherits has to take all the distributions out of that IRA by the end of the 10th calendar year following that individual's death. So if you have a retirement account that has, let's say your IRA has $500,000 in it, that individual that is the beneficiary will have to withdraw $500,000 from that account throughout the course of 10 years. Previously, somebody could stretch that out over their lifetime and not take any distributions. Now they're required to, and essentially exhaust the IRA at the end of that 10th year.
That's going to be a pretty big bump to their bottom line. I mean, there's going to be some pretty significant tax ramifications to that as an individual, as an inherited account that didn't exist before. So I guess the moral of that story is that we need to be looking at our estate plans, and we need to be making sure that they're still doing what we want them to do. As usual, a little planning can go a long way.
Yes, and one last thing on the Secure Act is, people might be familiar with 529 savings plan. That is for post-high school educational expenses. The Secure Act now also provides for parents, if they're the holders of that 529 account and their child has incurred any student loan debt, the parent is now allowed to withdraw up to $10,000 a year to pay towards that student loan debt for the child. So again, previously those were only for qualified expenses, not for the repayment of student loan debt. Now the parents or the account holder has the option of withdrawing $10,000 tax-free to pay down that student loan debt.
Certainly plenty of student loan debt out there.
Very much.
Well, your Spartans got us last night by 1.
Very, very tough game. I couldn't believe the score whenever I turned it back on in the second half.
I had not stopped watching, but can't give up on the Illini. They're always a force to be reckoned with. We'll see what happens the rest of the year, and we'll see you all next time on Legally Speaking.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.